what's your name?
Emmanuel.
Manuel? And where are you from?
Originally from Alabama, but visiting from Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big change for you.
Yeah.
So, how did you hear about the RIIN program?
I was taking a class, diversity, intro to diverse populations, and a professor just passed out the flyer for RIIN one day, so it's be a good program, and so emailed you and inquired about it.
Great. And what did you expect kind of before you got here?
Not really much of anything. To kind of walk away with a better understanding of rural populations and how it's changed since I grew up, especially with the influx of social media and everything else, and then technology booms and whatnot. So just to see what kind of shortcomings and resources and stuff were there, if any were, and how the real life was different from possibly like the stereotypes or the myths and beliefs about rural population. So.
Had you ever been to Alaska before?
No.
And where did you go for your rural experience?
Went to the Tanana.
Tanana. Okay, out on the Yukon River then, kind of due west of Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And was that more or less what you expected, or was that kind of a shock?
No, it was good as far as like what I expected for a rural site. I did expect it to be a very small town, small population, out kind of in the middle of nowhere. So that was pretty close to what I had in mind for the idea of a rural area.
And what did you do while you were there?
I did a lot of different things. I got a chance to attend a spirit camp for teens. Got a lot of chance to float down the Yukon River, to eat a lot of different fish, moose, go hiking, learn about berries, a lot of the Alaska Native culture, or Native American culture, Athabascan specifically for the region, learn some of the language, some of their games, pastimes, card games, and physical games, how to cut moose or how to make strips and jerky, how to jar, the pros and cons of a store, a small store, a B&B, and like some of the avenues of, some of the groceries they just don't bother to order because of the lack of availability of getting it there on time. So like fruits and vegetables are kind of almost non-existent in those rural areas, and even getting things simply that we take for granted like soda and chips. If the plane doesn't fly right, it destroys a good bit of the shipment or half the shipment and stuff like that. And so getting a better understanding for that, living off the season, so the hunting season, the fishing season, and everything like that, and how the river itself can change the environment. So a lot of different things that go into play that you really don't think about. Education and the stipulation of needing so many students to be in a school system, so that what I was informed was that they need at least 10 students in a school to keep the school open, which I find kind of redundant because in a lot of rural populations, it's very hard to find 10 people to go into school, especially if you're talking about 10 within the same grade. And so a lot of families have to fly their kids out to relatives in some of the major or bigger cities, or some of the rural villages have to come together and keep one school open between a bunch of different rural villages. And so then there comes into play as which village do we choose, and how does that accommodate all the students and stuff. So there was just a lot, but it was good.
So it sounds like you were really embedded in the community there.
I tried to, yeah, I tried to.
You were specifically interested in behavioral health, right? Mm-hmm. That's your background?
Yeah, clinical psychology.
So when you were out there at the clinic, what were you doing, who were you job shadowing?
So didn't shadow too much at the clinic. Reason being, again, the rural population, there's just nobody really at those small clinics. There was a PA that was there, named Kat, and then there was the mental health aide named Faith, and she's been there for about 30 years. And Kat is kind of in from Minnesota, I think, one of the Midwestern towns. But they stay gone a lot. Faith has been trying to work at, she started an Alcoholics Anonymous that they hold every week, and really reaching out to the village. But they're the only people for that small area, 200 something people. And so they're either always going on small calls or seeing clients, or as the way Kat put it, she really is like the kind of like the mortuary, the physician, the appointment keeper, the attendee for like getting flights out for people and stuff like that. And so they really do a lot. And so a good bit of the time there's like a nurse there or somebody, or the health aid clinics that we learned about. One of those may be there, but they might not even be at the level yet. And so Pat being the highest kind of aid person, she was either always going to the spirit camp or going to check in on some of the geriatric patients or the elders, or there were a couple serious mental illness cases, and coordinating with one of the officers for some of the other cases, or medicines or follow-ups or meetings. And so there's a really huge expectation for the workers there at some of these clinics. So I got a chance to go by and talk to them for a little while here and there, but most of the time I actually kept missing them quite a bit.
That's something that we heard about before you went out, is that one of the things about being a sole practitioner or with a very small staff is that you're on call pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
That reinforces the perception that you
Yeah, and that's exactly what she said too. I forgot exactly what she said her time on, time off is, but it's I want to say like 2 months on, or 2 weeks or 2 months or something like that on. It's an extended amount of time on, and then a very short amount of time off. And when you're on, it is a 24/7 call, and they answer to everything. So she deals with everything from the common cold to suicide, to even though she's a PA, she deals with a lot of medications for the behavioral health aspect of stuff. And so it really branches out to a lot of different areas. And just kind of put that perspective, last year alone they had 9 suicides. Some of them preventable, like pneumonia or sickness, but some of them not so preventable, like cancer. And then some, I'm sorry, not 9 suicides, they had 9 deaths. Some of them were suicides. So.
Does she have any advice about avoiding burnout under circumstances like that?
Really just taking the time to self. Both of them, that's what I gather from both. It really takes an individual that's motivated to really help the population and understand what they're in for the long run. I asked her what were the toughest times that she's found to be, and a lot of it was during the winter months where you have the 6 months of darkness, and so that tends to be a really extreme time for a lot of individuals, mental health especially, but just overall.
So is this something that you could see yourself doing long term?
Yeah, I definitely want to come back during the winter to experience a little bit more of the harsher temperaments, but I mean, I loved it in Tanana. I loved the small town feel, being able to help out at the store, kind of a real laxed mentality. There was a lot of problems, I think, that comes along with that anywhere else for that fact. But everybody was really involved in, when you get warmed up to, everybody was very welcoming. The kids were a joy to be around. I think they were the highlight of my experience. A lot of the kids and adolescents. Cynthia as the host family was awesome. The idea, the concept about food being lacking in the rural was not the case. They definitely fed me really well. They eat a lot. So that's probably one of the downsides too, is obesity and lack of exercise. Yeah, I mean, I definitely I plan on going back actually next summer, as well as probably in the winter, because I want to do some hunting with the moose hunting, and so there's quite a few people that offered to take me for that as well, and so. Yeah, I've been invited back to Spirit Camp, and I definitely will take them up on the offer.
Great. So do you have any advice for maybe future students who might go out to Tanana?
Yeah, go out to Tanana. Go out to the rural. Go out and really experience it because we have these common beliefs and perceptions about what the rural entails. And the definition of rural is broad. Some of the things that I thought going in when they said rural was, no electronics or very backwoods or unintelligent or even lacking in resources completely. And a lot of that's changing. There were a lot of resources. The stores were really well. The prices weren't extreme as maybe some of the smaller villages that I did hear about. She did have electronics for some of the people that are more technology savvy or that need that in their life. But there was also that ability to really get involved with the community. And one of the videos that we saw before was that the local population wants to see people involved, and I wasn't there for 3 months, but by the end of my, I say within the week, just me being involved and asking questions with people and getting involved with the kids and walking around the village and just really being open to their way. I think in turn allowed more people to be open with me and having more conversations. And by the time I left out, there were a lot of people that knew my name and they were calling me on a first name basis. I had jewelry made for me. A lot of hugs, gifts, and stuff like that. I still have stuff being sent to me. And I think that's a lot that we don't get from a lot of the cities and stuff. And so really being open, really being calm, it was a good rejuvenation for the soul. And on the other side of that too, it really, being out there really kind of gave me the involvement to see from the mental health aspect as well as the health aid aspect of what a lot of these adolescents and kids go through, a lot of the families that go through. There's a lot of substance use, a lot of drugs that come into play. There's a lot of abuse within the families. There's a lot of birth defects. There's just a lot of things overall that really need attention, that really need medical attention on a lot of different levels, and really pushing for a lot of people, and they get left in the wayside, whether it's education, whether it's resources, whether it's just simple conversation, somebody to listen to. A lot of the adolescents and teens just really want an adult to pay attention to them for once and be a friend, but yet at the same time structure and stuff. There's a lot of things that I feel like you can go there with an open mind and learn from and grow from and experience. And I think that's one of the things that really pushed me to want to come back and get more involved in Tanana, in Alaska. And it made my experience here in Alaska really wonderful. The program really wonderful is being able to see, there's a lot of resources that they need and there's a lot of issues that they have, but there's also there's a lot of strengths inherent within the culture, and trying to get the individuals to see some of those strengths is part of that challenge, and trying to advocate for the rural population. And so I don't think you get that same push or the same kind of awareness that what type of advocacy needs to happen when you're in the bigger cities like Anchorage or Fairbanks or something like that you would get for some of these smaller areas like Tanana, where there's a lot of people just falling through the cracks because there's nobody to advocate. The teaser turnover rate is high, the medical turnover rate is high, and stuff like that. So
any last words?
Oh, yeah, a lot, but I'll let the video speak for itself.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking to us. We appreciate the help.
Thank you.